Hello and welcome to the first update in the Arduino Space Invaders project. Now in the first video we looked at all the components we would need to finish this off, and one of the components was a new screen. We need to replace this old screen, which is much too big, with this new small screen. So I've had a couple of days to work on that, and the result is Space Invaders running on the new screen. So there you go, pretty short video. Oh, apart from, I would like to talk about what's going on up here. Let me just zoom in. Go up a bit. If you look on this breadboard, there's a whole bunch of components there. And those are needed because these screens can't be connected directly to an Arduino. So let's talk about that. So the problem is pretty simple. Arduinos run on 5 volts, and these screens run on 3.3 volts. And 5 volts into 3.3 volts doesn't go. If you try and send 5 volts to the screen, you can damage it. So let's take a look at what we need to do. Now you can actually power these screens, let me zoom in, with 5.5 volts, and that's because if we look here where it says VCC, that's your power pin, and we follow this trace up here, that goes to a 3.3 volt regulator. So even though we put 5 volts on this pin, this regulator will supply 3.3 volt power to the screen. So the power's okay. What we can't do is send 5 volt signals from the Arduino to these screens to control them. For that we need a thing called a resistor divider. So we can power these screens with 5 volts, but what we can't do is send them 5 volt signals from the Arduino. If you do that, you can damage the chip on the screen, and I actually tried it to see if it would work or not, and it doesn't work. The screen doesn't respond. I just connected 5 volts to it. The screen did nothing. So don't think you can get away with it by sending 5 volt signals. You can't. We need to send 5 volt signals from the Arduino and convert them into 3.3 volt signals for the screen. And the easiest way to do that is just 2 resistors. If we choose the values correctly, we can get 3.3 volts here in the middle. And the way to do that is to make this resistor twice as many ohms as this resistor here. So 3 kilo ohms is twice 1.5 kilo ohms. And the screen has 4 data lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we need to do that 4 times, once for each of the data lines coming from your Arduino. Now let's talk about how I chose those values. As I said, that was just what I had in my resistor box that day. The key number, the number we want to look at, is when you put these 2 resistors in series, you get 4.5 kilo ohms total. And with 5 volts, that gives us 1.1 milliamps of current. And the current is the important number. If we put, for example, we just have to keep 2 to 1 ratio, remember. If we put 2 ohms and 1 ohms, that would let through 1.7 amps of current, which is obviously far too much. So these values don't work. The problem is if we put in too much resistance, we could put in 2 mega ohms and 1 mega ohm, for example, and that would give us 1.7 microamps of current. And remember, we're sending data signals, high-speed data signals. So when the signal comes along, if it's at 0 and we want it to go high, up to 5 volts, we want this signal to go up quickly and get a nice square corner at the top. And when it goes down, we want it to go down quickly and have a nice square corner at the bottom. And 1.57 microamps isn't enough current for high-speed data lines like that. What would happen is it would go up slowly, like this. It would come down slowly, because there's just not enough electrons to drive the lines properly. So we need more current than that, less current than that. And about this number is where you want to be. If it's 2 milliamps, that's okay. If it's half a milliamp, that's okay. I got 1.1 milliamps because I just had these 2 resistors handy. Okay. Any values in this range will do. You could put 1 kilo ohm, 2 kilo ohms, for example. That'll be fine. So that's how you connect one of these screens to an Arduino. It's not too difficult when you know how. And that's the end of this video. In the next video, we're going to talk about sound. We need to simplify all the sound circuitry, and we'll take a look at how I did that. So see you then. So what happens if you've only got some weird values in your resistor box? Let's say you've got 220 ohms, everybody's got 220 ohms. Well, you could put down here 390 ohms resistor. Down to ground, you've got 5 volts coming in. And that gives us 610 ohms total. And if we do the math, so you've got 5 volts, 610 ohms. That gives us 8.2 milliamps of current. It's a bit high, it's going to drain your battery a bit. It's going to work. And if we multiply that by 390, that's going to give us here 3.19 volts in the middle. It's not 3.3, it's a little bit low. That's fine. It's going to recognize that as a positive value. So use what resistors you've got. If the voltage, as long as the voltage isn't higher than 3.3 volts, it's going to work. If the current's a bit high, it's going to work. Okay? Use what you've got.